Knock at the Cabin is a suspenseful and thrilling horror movie that will have you on the edge of your seat. The movie follows a group of friends who decide to take a weekend trip to a remote cabin in the woods. What starts out as a fun getaway quickly turns into a nightmare when they hear a knock at the door in the middle of the night. From there, the movie takes us on a wild ride as the friends try to survive the night while being stalked by an unknown assailant. The tension builds throughout the movie as we watch the characters try to outsmart the killer and stay alive. One of the things that makes Knock at the Cabin such an effective horror movie is the setting. The remote cabin in the woods is the perfect backdrop for a horror movie. It's isolated, creepy, and has a sense of foreboding. The darkness of the woods, the creaking of the old cabin, and the silence of the night all add to the suspense and tension. Another thing that makes the movie so effective is the pacing. The movie starts off slow, building the tension gradually. It's not until about halfway through the movie that things really start to pick up. But once they do, it's a non-stop roller coaster ride of terror and suspense. The characters in the movie are also well developed, which makes it easier for us to root for them and feel invested in their survival. They're not just one-dimensional characters who are there to be killed off. We get to know them and care about what happens to them, which makes the horror all the more effective. The movie also does a good job of keeping us guessing as to who the killer is. There are plenty of suspects, from the creepy old man who warned them to stay away from the cabin, to the ghost of a previous victim seeking revenge. But just when we think we've figured it out, the movie throws us a curveball and keeps us guessing until the very end. One of the things that sets Knock at the Cabin apart from other horror movies is its use of jump scares. While some horror movies rely too heavily on jump scares, Knock at the Cabin uses them sparingly and effectively. They're not cheap scares that are used just for the sake of scaring the audience. Instead, they're used to build tension and keep us on our toes. The movie also does a good job of using sound to create a creepy atmosphere. The sound of footsteps on the old wooden floors, the creaking of the cabin, and the silence of the woods all add to the suspense and tension. Overall, Knock at the Cabin is a well-crafted horror movie that will have you on the edge of your seat. It's not just a mindless slasher flick, but a movie that takes its time to build the tension and suspense. The characters are well developed, the setting is creepy, and the pacing is spot on. If you're a fan of horror movies, Knock at the Cabin is definitely worth a watch. However, it's worth noting that Knock at the Cabin is not for everyone. If you're not a fan of horror movies or have a low tolerance for gore, this movie might not be for you. There are plenty of bloody and violent scenes, as well as some jump scares that might make you jump out of your seat. In addition, some viewers might find the plot to be a bit predictable. While the movie does a good job of keeping us guessing as to who the killer is, there are some cliches and tropes that might make it easy to figure out what's going to happen next. But despite its flaws, Knock at the Cabin